And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, July 15th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and from other Native news sources. The Central Lakes College Veterans Resource Center in Brainerd, Minnesota on July 27th will host an afternoon for American Indian military veteran spouses and their dependents. The event is for anyone interested in exploring higher education and educational benefits that are available through military education programs. Staff from the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs Higher Education Program and Veterans Upward Bound will be available to provide one-to-one guidance to explore educational benefits. Staff from Central Lake College will be available to provide additional assistance. For information, contact Deb Dewey, Veterans Resource Center Civic Engagement Coordinator at 215-855-8279. That's 218. And we'll have that email up there at ddewey@elemn.edu. Charles Rose, U.S. Department of Education's General Counsel, and Kevin Jennings, Assistant Deputy Secretary of the Office of Safe and Drug-Free Schools, are consulting with tribal officials today to gather feedback on education matters affecting American Indian and Alaska Native students. The day-long consultation is being held at the Chief Leashai School in Puyallup, Washington, is an outgrowth of President Obama's November 5, 2009 presidential memorandum and executive order, which directs agencies to develop a plan of action for providing regular and meaningful consultation and strengthening of government-to-government relationships with Indian tribes. And they're having a special one-day fish decoy carving class with elder artist Jerry LaBarge to be held at the Woodland Indian Arts Center in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin on Saturday, July 24th. That's from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. at the Woodland Indian Arts Center on Peace Pipe Road in downtown Lac du Flambeau. And you can call 715-588-1514 for more information. There is a cost for that workshop, so check in. Jerry has been carving fish decoys for several decades and learned his craft from his father and other community elders. And the Iroquois Nationals lacrosse team has forfeited its first game that was due to be played today in Manchester, England, over that dispute and use of the Six Nations passport. We're waiting to hear about their departure from the United States, as Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has announced that the State Department was in the process of providing a one-time waiver for the U.S. passport requirement, and hopefully in time for the team to play its second scheduled game in the next couple of days. They're still waiting for England to accept the waiver from the U.S. And today we're talking briefly with Lori Townsend of the Alaskan Public Radio Network in Anchorage, Alaska, about the Great Healing Racism Project that First Alaskans Institute is working on. Also a little bit more about more village public safety officers in some of the communities there. Lori Townsend, you're in Anchorage, Alaska today. You're going to tell us a little bit about what's going on there in Alaska with some public safety officers being assigned to villages, and then this Healing Racism Project.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, we're reporting on a couple issues this week. One is that there's a program here in Alaska called the Village Public Safety Officer Program. And these folks are law enforcement presence in villages that are in remote locations, are off the road system, and oftentimes it takes days for state troopers to get out there. And so there's a real need to have a law presence in these areas. And the Village Public Safety Officer Program meets that need. They're given a lot of training. They don't carry guns, but they can make arrests. And the Tlingit and Haida Central Council is expanding its Village Public Safety Officer program now. They've added 2 in Cake and 1 in Heidelberg, 1 in Pelican. These are Southeast Alaska communities, Native communities. And there's already some in Angoon and Thorn Bay. They're also looking for other positions. The Parnell administration, our current governor, has appropriated more than $11 million this year for the VPSO program. That's an increase of about $1.5 million. And the officers are trained through the state program, but they're managed by tribal councils in these areas. So there's about 71 VPSO officers currently in Alaska, and there's a need for more, and we're hoping, or the villages are hoping for an expansion.
Actually putting a little bit of the control back into the tribal community again.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, we'll take a look at that and see if there's an expansion of some of the ideas around that, local law enforcement, local courts, local diversion programs, and stuff like that. And in that nature, tell us a little bit about this First Alaskans Institute and this racism healing project that's going on.
The First Alaskans Institute has launched an initiative for racial healing. It's in conjunction with the Kellogg Foundation. It's a national initiative, and First Alaskans have received a $350,000 grant for a 2-year project to kind of kickstart this conversation in the state about how to approach the idea of racial equity. And there's every 10 years in Alaska, there's an opportunity for what's called a constitutional convention. And there will be a ballot question posed to the people of Alaska. Shall we hold a constitutional convention to change the constitution of the state? This happens every 10 years. And the First Alaskans Institute is going to work very hard on a campaign to present the issue of racial equity, making sure that First Nations, First Alaskans are included in the Constitution. Right now it references pioneers and miners, and they rightly want to see the first people of the state included. And so there will be a campaign to have dialogue about this issue and the need for it, and they're kicking off a campaign of having these discussions based on indigenous dialogue techniques, that they will train people how to conduct these sessions so that they can bring people together in a non-threatening, non-confrontational way, in a respectful way, to have a conversation about the issue of race and a need for equity in the state.
Is there any contact numbers or anything that you have available at this time that might be available if someone was interested in contributing to that idea?
Well, certainly they can find First Alaskans online. The First Alaskans Institute has a good web presence, and there's information about this initiative online. I'm also doing some reporting on this, and we'll have a story posted to our website, aprn.org, within the next day or so. So there'll be links there, and also people can find First Alaskans Institute online and check out some of the preliminary information there as well. It'll be headed up by the Alaska Native Policy Center. Liz Medicine Crow is the director there, and I just interviewed her yesterday about this initiative, and we'll be reporting on that either today or tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. We'll look you up. Thanks for joining with us again. We'll check in maybe perhaps next week again.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
We're already at 5 minutes. So.
And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. Miigwech for joining with us.